Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Pure Nintendo podcast. My name is Gemma, and with me today I have two guests. I have from Pure Nintendo, Trev. Welcome back, Trev.
Hey, glad to be here.
And this week, joining us all the way from Premium Edition Games is our special guest, Barry. Welcome, Barry.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure, absolutely. And we have a really big show again this week. We're going to talk about the latest Tears of the Kingdom trailer, which dropped just last Thursday. And we also want to discuss the Nintendo Live event that's been announced and our thoughts around that, as well as get some details from Barry about Premium Edition Games and their latest Direct, which covers a lot of interesting content coming out. So with that in mind, let's start off with that Tears of the Kingdom trailer, which was announced, I think, with like half a day's notice or something. I think it was on Twitter. I saw it's like, hey, the final trailer is coming out at like 7 a.m. or something, I think it was, for US viewers.
It wasn't too much warning.
No, It was just like, bam, here we go. Last trailer, apparently.
I feel like Nintendo does more shadow drop stuff like that lately. I don't know why. Keep us on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, they announce like directs the day beforehand, and sometimes game drops just the day beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is interesting. And interesting marketing tactic, which is cool. And it does keep us on our toes. And as you know, we Nintendo fans are kind of, always watching, and we are kind of taking this content with avid eyes, and we're obviously rapidly consuming this and waiting for more details. So I think it satisfies those kinds of urges. So I assume we both got to watch the trailer since then? Mm-hmm. Yes, right. Let's go with Barry, since you're our special guest. Let's start with you today. Thoughts? What did you think? Did it hit the spot for you? Were you impressed, or was there something else you would have liked to have seen? I think it was like a 3 minutes and 45 seconds or something, around that kind of mark.
It's weird because when I'm already sold on something, I don't need to see more. Mm-hmm. I don't like to be spoiled. It's like I'm good. I'm good. So I was questioning even watching this thing. I'm like, do I really need to see it? Because I'm buying the game. I'm gonna play the game, and I want to be surprised. But I'm like, all right, you know what? I know that people are gonna be talking about it. I know there's no way I'm gonna get through over a month on social media without the trailer contents being spoiled. I'm gonna have to talk about it on my own podcast, Nintendo Fuse, as well as on podcasts like this. That I'm graciously, guesting on, and thankful for that. So I figured let's watch it, and it exceeded my expectations, and cool. There were things in there that I had no idea would be there. Definitely didn't expect to see Ganondorf, as people are calling him, hydrated Ganondorf now. I didn't expect to see what appears to be dungeons, which made me very happy. The Mission Impossible laser thing was like, wait, what is this? What is going on? There's like the giant bubble in the sky that you like swim through. I'm like, there's a lot to unpack in this. The rocket. I'm like, wait, what is going on? Like, I want to dissect it. I want to like rewatch it and do, analyze it frame by frame. But at the same time, I don't. At the same time, I'm like, all right, cool. I saw it. That's it. That whet my appetite even more. I am even more hyped for next month. And I think it did exactly what it needed to do, because going in, some people were like, well, I don't know if Tears of the Kingdom is going to be Game of the Year. We don't really know much about it. And while I was excited for the 10 minutes they showed prior, some people were kind of like lukewarm on it. Like, oh, it's connectivity. Is this Legend of Zelda nuts and bolts? What's going on? And I think this trailer turned all of that around for the majority of people and got the hype back up, which is what they needed.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. I totally agree from what you said, even at the beginning of that, just that I tend not to need trailers. In fact, I often avoid trailers especially for big movies that I already want to see, because I don't want spoilers. Like the big Marvel movies, I might just avoid some of those final trailers because I just don't want to know too much. I want to go in, even Mario. And I said this last week when we discussed the Mario movie, I did feel like I knew too much about that movie, and I would have liked to be surprised more. But that's because I watched the trailers over and over again. So kind of my own fault. But like, I'm a huge Mario fan, so that was always going to happen. So I completely agree. I didn't necessarily need to see this trailer, but also at the same time, we're going to talk about it. It's just something we have to do. So do you feel like, because you said it kind of hyped you up more, which is cool, and you said originally you didn't need to see the trailer, you already wanted to buy it, and I'm in the same boat. So do you think, so you're kind of glad that they dropped it and you're glad that you saw it then? Or are you glad from the perspective that it helped maybe convince others?
I'm glad that it helps convince others, but if they never released this trailer and I went into the game without it, I think I would have been probably even better off because I wouldn't have seen what I've already seen, and when I saw it for the first time in the game, it would have been the, oh my god, like we're really going here. Oh, what's this or what is that? And like, this is cool. But now it's going to be like, oh, it's that scene from the trailer.
Yes.
Oh, I knew this was going to happen. So I think in the age of the social media and the internet, it's really hard to not be spoiled, to not see things when there's something released like this, because there's always going to be somebody. And even if you don't see it and you stay off social media and you have friends that like gaming, there's one person going to come up to you and go, did you see a new trailer? Oh my god, Ganondorf. And I'll be like, no, what are you talking about? You just ruined it, just like that. You might as well just tell me Bruce Willis has been dead the whole time, right? Like, so at that point,
wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. At that point, it's like, I wish I could have played it without this trailer coming out, because I was already sold. But from a Zelda fan's perspective, I'm glad they released it to keep that hype up, to build up that hype even more and get even more people excited about it, because I do have a feeling this is going to be my game of the year, and I think a lot of others as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't game of the year for a lot of people, probably us included. Yeah, I think there's obviously, there's definitely a lot of hype, and this trailer, I think it tipped a lot of people over the edge, and just the hype train it's left the station. It is truly gone out of here. Let's go to you, Trev. Then, what do you think? How did you react to this trailer?
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of am on the same page as you guys. Part of me didn't want to view it. And at the same time, I'm like, of course, we're going to be talking about it on the show. I can't just sit here and be like, well, I didn't see it.
You could, but it wouldn't be.
It would make for a dull show, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No, it was good. I think the thing that jumped out to me, there was that really brief clip, I think, where they were riding a minecart, and I'm like, wow, this looks like maybe it could be a more traditional dungeon area. I think, like Barry said that too. So, that's something that I didn't miss so much with the original release, because I really did like the shrines. But now, all these years later, I'd like to see them tackle traditional dungeons. So, time will tell, if they have them or how many they have them. But I liked it. I liked the emphasis on, the aerial stuff with even the aerial platforming. I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, it did what it needed to do for me, which admittedly wasn't that much, because I'm going to be buying it day one.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, after that gameplay kind of preview that we had a few weeks ago, I thought that was awesome. I mean, we saw a lot in a short amount of time, even though it didn't show off, like we're saying now, it didn't really show off anything to do that could be dungeons or not. We still don't really know for sure, but they definitely looked dungeon-esque in the trailer that we just saw.
Yeah, that's the word, dungeon-esque.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. So, like you said, time will tell. So the gameplay trailer, a lot of people were still, not ambivalent exactly. I think we were already on board, but some people, their reaction was that, what's going on with the story? Like, where is Link in the timeline right now? Where's Ganondorf? Where's Zelda? What's going on? Is this Breath of the Wild sequel or prequel, or how does it fit into the whole scheme of things?
Multiverse.
Yeah. Yes, of course, it's a multiverse. That's just.
I have been saying this. What's going to happen? And I'm saying this jokingly, but watch it be real. Like, there's going to be something where like Link gets defeated and he's like needs help, and he's like using the Sheikah Slate calls upon like these portals open up, and like the Hero of Time and the Hero of Winds, and the they all start coming out. The Hero of Twilight, and like all the links from all the games come together, and like it's like Avengers Endgame style, just with all these links rushing Ganondorf.
Wow, that would.
Oh man, now I really want that.
I know, right? That would be cool.
That would be so cool. Yes, I could see that happening. Yeah, it's definitely flavor of the month, the whole multiverse thing. If other franchises are anything to go by, but Nintendo,
sure.
Nintendo does its own thing. So we'll see. We'll see. But needless to say, yeah, it did show off a lot. I think the other thing that I wanted to mention, particularly to ask you, Trev, about was the music, because, and I mean, of course, Barry as well, but Trev and I always discuss music on this show because I don't know, did you notice how awesome the music was in this trailer?
I did not, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
You recall I said I was even hesitant to view it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm really worried about spoilers per se, because Nintendo's pretty good at keeping things close to their chest, but I really I wanted to be surprised because they showed clips like, and I'm like, I wonder what they're talking about here. So I actually just watched the trailer muted.
Right. Oh wow.
So I have nothing to say on the music except I'm hoping for a more pronounced score, like the original Breath of the Wild had that really good kind of environmental tunes that came in and out, but it was a little more subdued.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Compared to other Zelda. So I'm hoping this is a return to that kind of epic booming score.
I think you're going to get your wish.
Yeah.
I'm going to be surprised with the audio.
I think you'll be surprised with the audio. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think, of course, trailer music is very different than the actual music. But
Mm-hmm.
I think based on this trailer, I think you'll be pleasantly happy.
Same.
Yeah, that's a good point about trailer music can be different. Sometimes I'll ask on videos, like devs will throw up a trailer and I'll be like, this is a great tune. Is this in game or is it just promotional? So
yeah, good point. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. That's honestly, I'm weird with music, but that's probably like when I think of the Zelda series as a whole, I think of like specific tunes, which kind of bring up the scenes in my mind. So that's a huge element for me.
I think, like, to me, I will say if this trailer is anything to go by and the music is representative of what's in the game, I will say this is the equivalent of Majora's Mask to Ocarina, in the sense that when Ocarina came out, as much as everyone loved it, there was one big glaring omission from the game, and that was the Zelda classic tune is not in the game at all. And people are like, well, where is it? It's so weird. It's the first game without it. And then, of course, Majora's Mask, you step out and determine a field, and it's playing. It's like right there. It's like, oh, okay. It's like a course correction. Like, we realized we didn't put that in the last game. We're definitely not only putting it, but we're putting it front and center for you. I feel like it's that type of thing where Breath of the Wild was very muted. And this is like, oh no, we're going bombastic.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that trailer has not led us astray, because it and again, we don't want to say too much because you deliberately didn't listen to it, Trev, which is really cool. Actually, I love that, because I knew that you'd be interested in the music, so that makes perfect sense that you wouldn't want to hear too much of it. But it definitely stood out to me, and I think what Barry said is 100% correct. It's just, it's a lot. It hit the spot for me, and I do hope it carries over to the actual game, because it was pretty amazing. So yeah, that classic theme, I mean, you can't miss it. You can't do without it these days. It's part and parcel of what makes the whole game experience what it is. Really.
That's where you get your goosebumps, right?
Exactly.
When you know it plays, it's like, oh, shit's about to go down, and the goosebumps are there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like a series like Zelda, you have, even though each game's different, you have like a checklist, like where you have to make sure you have this and this and this. And I feel like music that's one of my checklists anyway.
Yeah.
The classic themes, even if they're reimagined, orchestrated or with different twists on them, you can recognize them. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
It's so powerful in every type of medium, especially those recognizable themes. I mean, like Mario, World 1-1 is so recognizable when you hear that.
Yeah.
It's like it's instantly memories and triggers, and the same with Zelda, and just like many other. I mean, if you were watching like the new Superman movie, for example, and he gets beaten down, and you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And he like lifts the rocks that are on him. He just busts out, and John Williams' theme just starts playing. Shit's about to go down. Like you get hyped, you get really pulled in, and you talking about the Mario movie, it's the same kind of thing at the end there when they played, and I don't want to spoil for other people, but when they play a particular theme, it's like, oh, things are going down, and you get that hype and you get the goosebumps, and
Oh, totally. I'm
powerful.
getting goosebumps talking about music. I'm not even listening to it, but it's in my head. I can hear it, especially when and the Mario movie is
why we need to bring video in so we can actually zoom in on your arm.
I know. We will get there. The Mario movie is a perfect example, actually, because they did such a great job with that soundtrack. I think it's like you're saying World 1-1, World 1-2, those classic iconic sounds, and they orchestrated them, perfectly. They intertwined them with the movie, so it was kind of seamless, but instantly recognizable. And the Mario games do a good job of that anyway, I think. They kind of tweak the formula and give it its own, edge to it, but it's still Mario. So, and Zelda exactly the same. I mean, they're both, 40-year-old franchises now. So we've been along for the ride for a while. So yeah, it's incredible. It's part and parcel of what it is. And I, for one, excuse me, I'm very, very excited about this. And we're counting down now. What are we on? Today's like the 15th. This will air on about the 17th or so. So we're well under a month now. Only a few short weeks, really, to go. I mean, do you think we're going to see anything else, or is this it? They said final trailer, so I kind of assume that's the case.
It.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got to be. Nothing more is needed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
All we're going to see is the reviews, like the review embargo, and someone's going to leak things before the review embargo, and stupid.
That's going to be the hard part, isn't it? Staying away from those spoilers as we actually get to play the game. So, yeah, that's the next big thing, next big hurdle for us. Yeah, well, I think it hit the sweet spot for everybody. So from what I've seen online, everyone has been pretty pleasantly surprised and happy with this trailer. So coupled with the gameplay trailer, I think they did a good job of covering a lot. We could talk more about, if you feel free to jump in, the aspects of the trailer that we kind of liked a lot. Like you said, those platforming kind of elements, Trev, those bits towards the end where he's kind of jumping and floating across to those little islands. And there was the bubble thing that you mentioned, Trev, Barry, which was really cool. And especially those dungeon elements that we don't know, but we think are dungeon elements. They definitely look like it.
All I'll know is that if obviously, like in Breath of the Wild, there was 120 shrines, and if they do go back to the dungeon element, I'm not expecting 120 dungeons. That'd be asinine. So I'm maybe 8 to 10, maybe a little more. What I do hope is that if they do go back to dungeons, they still have some way of fast travel, because one of the best elements of the shrines was it was a fast travel point, and having 120 of them out there, it allowed you to explore the world so much easier. And if they don't have that, I feel it's going to be that much more difficult, and people are going to be like, I don't really want to backtrack to there, and it's not going to feel as, I don't know, fun. Like there's something about fast travel, that convenience, that modern convenience, and especially having it in Breath of the Wild, to not have it in Tears of the Kingdom would be weird. So if they are going to dungeons, maybe they do dungeons and they do shrines, kind of like they did in Breath of the Wild, although those dungeons were not most people's favorites. That would be fine with me, but as long as there's some kind of really good fast travel as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be a mix as well. That seems logical. They do need something, like you said, 120, and those fast points. I mean, it's a huge world, and this world's even bigger, right? Do you guys remember the scope of the world? I can't remember the size they said in terms of like kilometers or miles, whatever. It's like so many miles worth of land to traverse, something ridiculous. And if you don't have those in sort of quick and easy ways to get from A to B. It's a lot of backtracking because Breath of the Wild was gigantic and this is bigger. So it's a lot. There's going to be a lot to explore. So yeah, I think it'll be a combo. I think it'll be a bit of both. Personally, that's my guess.
I mean, they could even bring back like mini dungeons. I mean, like, we talked about Majora earlier. It's got, it's 4 main dungeons, but then it's got a lot of, smaller ones too, which, aren't any less fun. So, and that's kind of standard with a lot of Zelda games. They have those smaller mini dungeons. So maybe they can kind of split the difference between shrine and full blown dungeon.
True.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Awesome. Any final thoughts on this trailer before we move on to the next topic? No. Okay.
Nope.
Well, I mean, leading on from that, do we think Tears of the Kingdom will be playable at this Nintendo Live event that was just announced? I think that's one of the games. Yeah, it would make sense, right? So Nintendo just announced a Nintendo Live event for North America in September. It's going to be in Seattle in Washington. And there's no actual date for September other than that vague month, and no kind of tickets not available yet. You don't know how much it is or timing-wise, whether it's across a weekend, something like that. We do know that there was a Nintendo Live event previously in Japan a few years ago. So we kind of have a bit of insight as to how that might look. So, I mean, we've talked a lot recently about events, probably more like conventions like E3 and PAX. What do we think about Nintendo going out with this Nintendo Live event? Trev, do we want to start with you this time? What do you think?
Well, it was interesting, Gemma, listening to you talk, and you're like, well, we don't have the date and no tickets yet, and we don't know this, we don't know that. I feel like I don't know enough to have an informed opinion because I'm not familiar with the the Japanese event. Like I was looking over the press release, and I'm like, the closest thing it reminded me to is, I don't know if you guys remember. This is going back probably almost 10 years, like around the Wii U, like first year, they had these Nintendo mall tours where they would have these big. They weren't kiosks. They were like, I don't know. They would map off sections of the mall and have a lot of Nintendo games on display and representatives and swag and whatnot. And I'm like, is this just a bigger version of that? Like,
kind of.
I guess it just leaves me with questions.
They used to do that for the DS and 3DS as well, actually. At least here in Australia. I don't think we got a Wii U one that I saw. But I remember going to a shopping centre or a mall and playing, the DS and the 3DS when they were sort of releasing new kind of iterations of them, and they had them on the display with Nintendo people around.
They were cool little events, and I'm just even now I pulled it up. I'm looking at it as you were talking, and I just don't know enough. Like, is this going to be like Woodstock for Nintendo games?
Yeah, kind of. I think.
No.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a marketing exercise, I guess. And Barry, you might have insight about this as well. To me, it feels like it's a celebration of Nintendo. So it's meant to be kind of a family-friendly event from young to old. Bring your grandmother, bring your kids along. You get to play games. You get to participate in fan events and tournaments. I don't know how much Nintendo will actually be presenting per se. Like, I don't know whether there's announcements and things like that. That's definitely an unknown. I don't think the Japan one was necessarily all about that. It wasn't about here's a new game. It was more about celebrating, I guess, existing games, maybe previewing upcoming games as well. Definitely the timing. I don't know when the Japan one was, but the timing for this one is September, which is, pretty much leading into holiday season. So it seems like, hyping people about purchasing Nintendo products for, Christmas, etc. I don't know. That's probably what I thought initially. I think it's a good thing. If I was in North America, I would definitely try to get to it myself. It's a little far for me to travel, unfortunately. Since we've lost E3 this year, it's not exactly a replacement, but it feels like it's something kind of cool or special that Nintendo's trying to do. And whether it becomes an annual event or not, I suppose it depends how successful it is. And I didn't realize this until I read up on it, but Nintendo of America, I think their headquarters is actually in Seattle. So
That's correct.
Yeah. So it's sort of their home turf, I guess, in terms of America. And I believe they did have in the Japanese version that they did a few years ago, at least part of the event was in Kyoto, which is obviously where the sort of worldwide headquarters are. So I think it's interesting. What do you think, Barry? What's your initial thoughts? Do you know much about this kind of event?
I mean, realistically, especially with this being Nintendo, what it's going to be is it's going to have, kiosks with Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4 and Mario Kart 8 and maybe Mario Odyssey or something, and letting people play and enjoy, and Kirby might be there, and there's supposedly stage events and music, Nintendo music probably playing, and it's probably something akin to that, just like the Japanese, like nothing drastic, nothing big, just kind of like you said, a celebration of Nintendo. And I think it's wise for everybody to expect that, because Nintendo is the key of, coming out of left field and doing their own thing. And so many people get all these expectations, right? They'll make an announcement and they'll just be like, this trailer, we're doing a direct for the Mario movie, and it's just going to be about the trailer. And people are like, oh, but there were no game announcements. Oh, I'm mad that there was no game announcements. But Nintendo told you it was just for the movie. But you still get these expectations in your head, like, oh man, they're going to do something different. And I think you can't do that with this. I think based on the information we have now, you have to go into it as this is all it is. It's going to be like you mentioned, Trev, the mall tour, or they used to do like the campus tour where they would go around to different college campuses to show off like the Wii and GameCube and stuff like that. I think that's all it is. But and this is where I say but, there's some other elements that could factor into this. One is there's no E3. So that doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to get a June Direct, but it also doesn't mean we are. Where E3, we would at least be guaranteed something. Last year, we didn't get a June Direct. We didn't get an E3. And the next Direct was in September. Oh, what else is in September? So there's a chance, and again, I wouldn't count on this, that they premiere a brand new Direct during this event. There's a chance. That would be cool. There's a chance, if you remember, the Switch, back when it was called the NX, was shown off at the end of the year, and then we had the big blowout in January, the big presentation. There's a chance that they announce a new system, Switch 2, Switch Pro, Super Switch, whatever you want to call it. There's a chance. Maybe they bring them out on stage. Maybe they let people play it there for the first time. We don't know. Again, these are like high hopes. However, you mentioned the holiday season is coming up. And when they announced the NX at the time, before the holiday season in 2016, they needed that jolt in the arm, right? The Wii U was pretty dead. They weren't going to lose many sales. However, the Switch is still selling well, and if you announce a brand new system right before the holidays for release for next year, you're going to pretty much cannibalize on your holiday sales, because people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to get a Switch for Christmas now for my kid because a new one's going to come out, or I don't want to buy one for myself because I want to wait and save that money for the new one. So at the same time, because the Switch is so hot, I expect a new console to be announced. If it wasn't announced already, or maybe in June, I would say next year, just because they don't want to lose those sales. But you talked about playing upcoming games outside of Tears of the Kingdom and then Pikmin 4. We don't know any other games. Like that's it. The whole second half of 2023 is a mystery from Nintendo's point of view, at least, and what their offerings. So we don't know. So there's a lot to question about this and a lot of unknowns, and I guess we're going to have to see. But I would just say temper expectations. Expect it to be absolutely exactly what we're, based on the previous Nintendo Live things, where it's just going to be kiosks, and maybe Doug Bowser will show up and just say thank you for coming and here's some music or whatever. And if anything else happens, that's awesome, but don't expect it.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I think that's a really good summary. I have lots of thoughts. Wow. First of all, Super Switch. I love that. Can we please call the Switch 2 the Super Switch? Because, Super Nintendo is like my favorite console. So for me, that would be really cool. What else? I think, absolutely right. You can't go in. And this is exactly what we're saying about Nintendo fans. And you mentioned the Mario trailer, people wanting more, It's very hard to please us Nintendo fans. Sometimes we get a little excited. We do crave more detail or more announcements or more games. And we've said this before as well, Trev. There's just so much content at the moment. It's hard to find the time to play all the games. Yet we still want more. So we're never satisfied.
Yeah, we're twisted little crullers, aren't we? We can't play these games, but we still want them.
Yes, absolutely. And we mentioned this a few weeks ago, the fact that the start of this year has been kind of jam-packed with games from Nintendo, with Fire Emblem and, Kirby and the Mario movie. It's not a game, but, we've obviously got Zelda coming up, Pikmin 4. The second half of the year is really a huge question mark because there are no big games. There's no Pokemon. There's no Mario. There's nothing announced at this point. I think there's Pokemon DLC, but there's no kind of big tier 1 games ready to roll out. So, and everyone's talking about Switch 2. We've been talking about this for years now. It seems like it's going to happen at some point. Well, it has to, right? Eventually they have to replace the Switch with something just because of technology. When is that going to happen? No one knows. And I think you made a really good point that September would be a bit of an awkward time in terms of holiday sales. It would be shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. So maybe if they announce something in June, that would be out by Christmas, that would make sense to then have some playable versions at a Nintendo Live event, for example. So that's a possibility. Otherwise, I think it'd have to be next year. You'd want to announce it kind of early on, wouldn't you? So that you would still maximize those sales.
Yeah, that was the whole point with the big January Switch presentation. But again, the Wii U was pretty dead at that time. They had nothing to lose. The Switch, however, is still selling great, and Nintendo is known for pretty much keeping systems around past their prime because they're still selling. And killing off systems early if they're not. If you look, the NES and the Super NES absolutely kept going past their prime. Games just kept coming out for them, which was great. Game Boy, same thing. But if you look at the N64, the first half of 2001, you had some good titles, but it was only like 4 or 5. And then the second half of it, 2001, had nothing. The N64 was dead well before the GameCube ever came out. And you look at the GameCube died, in 2006, with the Wii launch. Before the Wii, the GameCube had the Wii, the GameCube had nothing until Twilight Princess, which happened a month after the Wii version, and the GameCube was dead. The Wii was the exact same thing. The last year or so, we had the Operation Rainfall games that we had to beg for, and still Nintendo didn't do much with the Wii until the Wii U. And again, the Wii was virtually dead at that point outside of Just Dance. And the Wii U was dead like 2 years after it came out, it feels like. So Nintendo, I feel like they're looking at these sales and they're like, oh, the Switch is still selling crazy. Why should we introduce the Switch 2 yet? Let's just keep riding the Switch, which is great if you've got the hardware, or the software, but the software is, we don't know a lot. What else is going on? They're surviving off DLC this year. This is a big DLC year. It's Splatoon 3, Fire Emblem Engage, Xenoblade 3, Mario Kart 8. But can they survive off of that? They did it on the Wii U, but they also had the 3DS helping them out. So I guess we shall see. But this is definitely one of those things where Nintendo fans, as you said, are very hard to please, fickle. And I've always said Nintendo can come out with a direct that shows off 100 brand new games, and at the end of the direct announces that every single person on the planet is going to get a package tomorrow that contains 5 Switches, every game released for the Switch ever, every game that they've ever released on previous consoles with those consoles, all for free, as well as $1 billion US for every single person, and there still would be someone that bitches. So that's Nintendo fans in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Wow, we're fickle. Yeah, no, that's true. There's always someone. You just can't please everyone, can you?
But they didn't show off a new Metroid. Boo!
Yeah, that's it. That's what it would be. Exactly that.
Where's Metroid Prime 4? That's all I wanted. I didn't want $1 billion. Screw you, Nintendo. You suck.
Yeah, we can hear it now, echoing around the world. I'd be pretty happy with $1 billion, though, I have to say.
Most people would, but there's still so many people that would complain. Every Direct, this Direct only had like 2 games for me. This sucked. Well, not every game has to be for you. There's a lot of different type of gamers out there. Just be happy for them, and your time will come.
Yeah, and I thought the last couple of Directs had, a lot of content, and not necessarily all for me, but geez, they covered a lot.
Oh yeah.
So I think that was, that's sometimes it's frustrating to be a Nintendo fan just for that reason, but we do love it, and we go with the flow as much as we can. And I love all these questions. I love the speculation. I think obviously we'll find out more sometime in the next couple of months, because it's already April, it's mid-April. September's not that far away. It's like 5 months away. But it does, it reminded me though, speaking of E3, that maybe this is why they weren't involved with E3 even from the outset when E3 was even happening this year, just because they knew that they were planning this big event, because it's a big event for them. It's going to be probably a 2 or 3 day event. They need all their marketing, their event people on this. So I wonder if that's why they weren't super heavily involved, or why they kind of weren't involved at all with E3.
It could be a factor, or this could be a result of not going to E3. Like, let's do something instead. My guess to them not going to E3 and pulling out early was probably just nothing to show. Like, if you don't have anything to show, why spend money on a presentation?
Yeah, there wasn't much, was there? I mean, maybe Pikmin 4 would be the only upcoming game, I think, at that point, at June, right?
Yeah.
I wonder too.
Yeah.
I know COVID is not as much of a factor maybe at this point, but if this is in September, I wonder, do we even have confirmation this is going to be an indoor thing? Because they just talk about a large scale area. Maybe they have an outdoor thing, sort of like a county fair, but it's all Nintendo themed, or
oh man,
something like that. Maybe they ignore a lot of the challenges that come from a big arena type setting.
Yeah.
I could see that, like a Nintendo fair. They're selling like funnel cakes in the shape of like mushrooms and stars and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. They can use some of those food they have at the Nintendo, what is it? Super Nintendo World at LA. Yeah. There's the soup, the mushroom soup, which I would like to try.
People be buying it and freeze locking it in those bags.
Selling it online.
Yeah.
Super rare. This funnel cake has an extra batter drip in the bottom right corner. It's a rare variant.
Would a collector like yourself be interested in that, Barry?
Absolutely not. No way.
Would it be graded? I'd have to see if it was graded.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I do. Yeah. I just lost my train of thought actually, but I was thinking, the outdoor fair would be interesting. But what I initially thought, or one of the things I wondered, which is me jumping straight to being, such a big Nintendo fan, that I was like, I wonder if they'll sell toys and merchandise at this thing. So you've kind of taken me there with the food thing, but I wonder if I can buy a Yoshi plush or Animal Crossing toys or something.
You know what? They probably will have T-shirts that say Nintendo Live 2023 and stuff like that on it.
Probably, yeah.
Those will be on eBay. Don't worry, you'll pay a quite fortune for those.
Yeah. If I'm not there, I don't think I need a shirt from an event. Otherwise, it's kind of what's the point? If you're going to wear a shirt,
memories attached to it.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't there. It's like when you go to a gig, I'm happy to buy a shirt a concert that I go to, but what would be the point of buying a concert shirt if I wasn't at the concert, right? So it doesn't make sense. Anyway, that's just me. But I mentioned you being a collector, Barry. So let's move on to premium edition games and a little bit about you, because last time we chatted, we had a really good chat about collecting games.
Yes, we did.
And that's kind of like the premise behind, it's kind of like the ethos of premium edition games, right? You know, it's all about those, like having the physical version of games that you can't get, you couldn't previously get. Do you want to take us through a little bit about what it is that you do at premium edition games? And
Sure.
yeah.
What we do is we take digital only titles, like you said, that you can't get elsewhere, and we preserve them in high quality physical releases. And especially now with the eShops closed and the 3DS and the Wii U, and it was like this mad rush for the a couple weeks ago, and it was like the world was ending, doomsday kind of deal. And you know what? For a lot of developers, it is. They spend all this time and money to develop a game, and even if they're not getting a lot of revenue towards the end of a life cycle of a system, they're still getting a trickle. And then to not only be turned off completely, but to be able to say like no one can now experience what you just made is heartbreaking. So we try to find games that resonate with us, games that we really enjoy, games that are just fun to play, and preserve them physically in their most complete form possible. This way, they can be enjoyed well past the Switch's eShop departure. We know it's eventually going to happen. It's Nintendo, but we do now PlayStation 4 and 5 as well. And even classic systems. We really just try to give these developers a second life. We've heard so many stories, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this as well. You go to what came out this week on the eShop, and there's like 20 games, and it's like there's no way you could play all 20 games. And there's no way anyone could play all 20 games. And what happens is if it doesn't, go viral, a lot of these games just sink. They just sink and they're buried in the eShop, and they're never seen, and people don't hear about them. And that's heartbreaking. This is, people's passion projects. They're what they've worked on for years to come out with. So we give them a new life, we give them new attention, and we not only get them out there physically, we get them into collector circles. There's a lot of Switch collectors. There's a lot of people who do want to own the games physically, that want to make sure that they're buying something that they will forever get to keep, and eventually they can sell or trade or whatever. They at least own it. So we, as all of us as collectors, we tried to make versions of the games that we would want on our shelves, the ones that we would love to go to Best Buy or GameStop or whatever and buy and have. And if you've noticed, a lot of physical titles lately, just on all platforms, have become very cheap. The manuals gone. Sometimes, especially on the Switch, a lot of times the inlay art is gone. It's just white on the inside. It's like bare bones. And a lot of times, especially with the Switch, developers get cheap where they require you a download. So is it really a physical at that point?
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It really is. It's just the lack of caring. Sometimes they don't even come out in a region. You have to import it, or it's a collection, but only one game is physical and the others are download. It's like, man, it sucks. So we try and do what we can for these developers, and thus far we've previously put up for sale and released 14 titles, and we just announced our 15th and 16th title for the Switch in our latest direct. So I definitely recommend you check out the direct. Directs are always a labor of love. They're time consuming, a lot of sweat, a lot of heartache, a lot of pressure, a lot of got to get all the assets in on time, and our wonderful editor Tristan, shout out to him. He did a phenomenal job this time in this direct. He listened to a lot of what I had to say, and he didn't get too annoyed, because as like the director, it's kind of like, oh no, this has to be here. Just change this a little bit. But it's fun. So I don't know. I'm assuming you both have had a chance to watch the direct that we put out. I hope.
Yes, definitely. I thought it was great. I love that you guys put those out because it just feels like, I don't know, it feels like a special way. I mean, it's like Nintendo or any company that puts out a direct. It's like, here's a collection of all the things we're working on at the moment. Here's an update from us, basically, in a nice little package. And it's fun as well. Like, you guys had a lot of fun with it. I could tell, some of the humor behind it. And I really enjoyed it. And it was really fun to see which games were on the horizon. And in particular, you mentioned classic systems, and I know Trev would be interested in this as well. Do you want to tell us about that title that you've got in the
Well, if I have
works?
to, I take it Trev didn't get a chance to watch the direct.
Well, audio only. I didn't want to be spoiled. But I did. I'm definitely into the any. Well, no, go ahead and talk about it. They'd rather hear from you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So we did announce our second NES game. Previously, we did Ore Body Binder's Tale, which did extremely well, and this time we announced Bobby 67 Time Traveling Detective. This is a wonderful, passionate game from Cal Games. Clay, who worked on this, is an awesome guy, and he's actually modified the ROM for our release. There's going to be exclusive stuff on our cart that you can't even download and play like on an emulation. So you have to get the physical to experience that. And this is an aftermarket game. This is not a repro. This is a game that was developed, more recently, and after the NES was dead. But it's a phenomenal, fun game. It's like 7 worlds. It's like a action 2D platforming style game where you are going through time to try and stop evil half fish, half man from changing all of the traffic lights to green. That is the evil plan all over time. So it's just an exciting adventure. There's a lot of humor, and you got to keep your job. You're a cop. You got to make sure that you don't get fired. And it's great just to be able to bring this out. We're bringing it out. It's a full CIB. You're getting the full NES sized box. Manual dust sleeve, the actual NES cart. It will play on your original Nintendo as well as on like a Retron or a what you call it. Oh God,
the
now I can't think.
Block. Can I have that too? Styrofoam block.
I believe there is a styrofoam block in there.
Okay, good.
Analog. That's what I was thinking. Analog. But yeah, it's exactly the same size, so it fits right into your collection if you already have an NES collection. And it's great to be able to do that for a small passionate developer that just loves the NES. And it's the second time we're doing that. And yeah, I love it. I love that we can do it.
I mean, to hear that there's it's possible to buy a new game for your NES in 2023. Yep. I'm like, that's amazing. That is so cool. I love that. I do want to ask a little bit about it. Like so the developer wanted specifically to do an NES game. Is that right?
Yeah. There's a big NES community where people will still to this day make brand new NES games, and usually they're distributed via emulation, ROMs, and because emulation itself is legal, and obviously if it's an original game, there's no copyright. The developer owns it, so if they distribute it for people to enjoy, that's great. But again, those are just files, and it's always that dream of having that physical cartridge, and we were able to work with him to make that dream come true, which is great. And the original Nintendo collectors, they love seeing that. And if you could be a purist and be like, I only want to play what was originally put out in the NES, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but you are missing out on some great games because over the past 3 decades, a lot has been developed about the NES. A lot has been discovered. A lot of techniques have been modified and developed and discovered, and it just there's a lot that they can do that they probably wouldn't have been able to do back then. But because it's playable on an NES, it also has the NES restrictions. So you take a game like Shovel Knight, which looks like it would be an NES game, but Shovel Knight could not run on an NES. This is not only looking like an NES style, it is true NES style because it does run on the NES with those restrictions in play.
Yeah, right. Cool. And it does look great. I mean, the trailer looks fantastic, I think. It looks like a fun game. Graphically it looks awesome. definitely has the NES style. And I love the plot and the characters. Yeah, I think it looks like a super fun game, and I need to find my NES. I need to dig it out because it's at my mom's house somewhere.
Yeah, you do.
I keep saying that to you, don't I, Trev? I need to go to my mom's house to get my NES. But I know, Trev, you have yours, right? Because you play a lot of NES.
I do. Yeah, I've been playing a lot this past year, and it's people knock the NES about blowing in cartridges, but my NES still runs great. It really does. So
yeah, that's cool.
Did you get your pins replaced? 72
I did not, although I am using a top model. So
oh yeah, that's the better one, the top loader.
Yeah, it's a little more reliable. But yeah, I definitely agree about some of the aftermarket games. I do have some of them from like Mega Cat Studios or some of the other ones. But yeah, this one looks good. I did want to ask. Obviously, this is going to be a NES edition, but like looking over, I kind of feel like that customer we were joking about earlier. You got your standard editions, your steelbook editions, your retro editions, first print, second print, deluxe edition, variants. Like, without giving away your trade secrets, can you maybe share your thought process on which game gets which package?
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's a good question. So, all of our Switch games will get a standard and a retro edition. That is in the contracts. Every game gets that. So for NES, we only do the one edition, which is the standard CIB NES. With other things like the Switch, we do what we call our first print. We do that for the early adapters. We do that because if you want, we want people to pre-order. We want people to know like you're getting that first version. It's going to have its own slipcover because all our games have slipcovers. And when we do reorder games, because we do, we're not a limited publisher. So if a game sells out of our initial order, however big that is, if there's demand for that game, we will reprint. So for an example, Robot Named Fight, we printed a standard and retro, and that one actually had a deluxe, which I'll talk about in a minute, and sold out, completely sold out. There was a demand. We would go to shows, and people would be like, "Oh, do you have Robot? Where's Robot?" So we reprinted Robot, and a reprint is 1,000 copies. That's what a reprint is minimum. And we decided we weren't going to do just a standard version. We did the Steelbook. That was our reprint. It's a brand new version. It's got a brand new O sleeve. Cool. And we put it out there. So if you got it originally, you got the first print, But if you want a variant, if you're a variant hunter, you want to get another copy, you're going to get something different. And if you're just finding it now, you're getting a new version. It's also special. It's very cool. It's got a neat O sleeve with a hole in it that has the steelbook shine through. It just looks great. So that's where you get special editions like that. As for the deluxe, the deluxes are something. Originally, we set out to do a deluxe every series. The series is where we release several games, together. We're on Series 6 now, and we did a deluxe for Pigeon Dev Games Collection for Series 1 and Robot Named Fight Series 2. And we have announced when Sunshine Anthology comes out that we'll also be having a deluxe. But we kind of put a break on deluxes because books. So deluxes come with hardcover strategy guides, and the books are printed overseas. So when we did Robot Named Fight, it was printed overseas, and it was shipped by freight because hardcover books are very heavy. You're talking 200-page books, and you're talking 500 of them. It gets very heavy, so we do freight shipping. And unfortunately, that happened in 2021. And in 2021, we had the whole big shipping freight debacle where everything was backed up, and you would see freights off the coast of California just sitting there. It took forever to unload, and it took us like 4 months of the books being on the ship till we finally got it. Like 4 months, and customers are like, "Where's my game?" And we're like, "Well, we can't assemble it until we have the books, and the books are on a freighter." Like, we literally gave an update where we took a geographical map and we just pointed to the ship with an arrow off the coast of California say your book is here, your game is here, because like that's all we could do. And then of course, even when they docked, there was a lack of workers because of COVID. So even when the ships docked, it took forever for them to get unloaded.
Wow.
And then of course shipped from California over to us. So we put a little hold on that just because we felt so bad for those customers. We don't want to have people wait forever. And this was completely out of our hands. It was nothing to do with us. It was, but we didn't like it. So we're trying to limit that in a game. If a game really warrants a deluxe, we're going to do a deluxe. The next thing we have is a collector's edition, which we have with Raji, and that was an accident. Raji had never planned to have a collector's edition. Raji was supposed to have just the standard and the retro, and we were all set for that. And we told them for the retro edition, which all our retro editions come in a retro style box. That box is the exact size of a Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 box, so you could use protectors, you fit it on your shelf. It's all uniform, it looks great, but all the stuff has to fit in there. And we said, hey, we want you to do an art book, and they wanted to do an art book, and we said, okay, well, make the art book a Super Nintendo size manual, like that size, make an art book that size to fit in the box. And they said okay, and they got back to us a couple weeks later and said, so we have the art book, it's 128 pages. We're like, wow. That's not gonna fit. But we didn't want to say cut it down at that point, so we said, all right, let's think of something else to throw in the retro box, which we did, which is the little puppets, because when you play the game, the story is told with these puppets. And we said, well, let's make a collector's edition. So we printed the art book, all 128 pages, and it's the size of an N64 or a Super Nintendo box now instead, but it's thicker. It's 128 pages. So we did a slip cover to house both the retro box and the art book all together. And we didn't want to call it a deluxe because it's not a deluxe. It's not the same size as our deluxe. So we called it the collector's edition instead. And that also comes with some extra puppets, the shadow puppets. So cool. You get 2, I think, in the retro, and then you get the rest of the cast in the collectors. So that's, how we decide. And sometimes the developers decide for us.
Yeah. That's awesome. It sounds like quite a... Yeah, thank you. It sounds like quite a journey for everyone involved, really,
Oh, yeah. It is definitely an experience. But it's being able to work with these developers to get them what, they've always wanted, this dream of having their game put out. So, talking Switch, we mentioned that our 4th series is all in stock now, which is Wonderling DX, Rain in Your Parade, and Rack and Ruin. They're all in stock. They're all shipping. And standards and retros, we still have a few in stock of the retros, and retros are limited. The standards are not. And we love those games, and we're glad that we can get them out there. And then Raji, as well as the rest of our 5th series, They Bleed Pixels, Love 3, and Eagle Island Twist are all in production. We're just waiting for everything to come to our assembly plant, and then we'll be shipping those out because everything comes from different places. The manual comes from one place, the slipcover comes from another, the cartridge, of course, comes from Nintendo. So once we have it all assembled, we'll be shipping those out. And then, of course, we announced Series 6. Finally, we two games for the Switch that we've been dying to talk about, and we finally can. The first one we revealed is Wife Quest, which is probably it's the funniest game, I think. And Rain Your Parade is a hilarious game, but I think Wife Quest is even funnier. I think it's the funniest game we put out. And Wife Quest is an action platformer with RPG elements, and it plays, has some like Strider elements. It's got some Rastan elements. It is just a absolutely hilarious adventure where you play the titular wife, Mia, on a quest to save your husband from all the women creatures that have captured him, because they're jealous of your marriage and they want him for themselves, and you are out there trying to get your husband back. And it is hilarious because you can, if you've ever played any platforming games where an enemy has like killed you or knocked you into a pit or something and you've died, you have that extra frustration, like, like, how dare you? This game allows you to actually express that, because every enemy in the entire game, you could just beat up and kill no problem, or you could do finishing moves on every single enemy, and that includes like choking the life out of them, breaking their back, ripping their wings off, breaking their legs, and it's hilarious. It's all cartoon violence, but it's funny, and it's got really tough bosses that will really challenge you. A Mega Man style system where when you beat the bosses, you get their powers kind of deal. So you can then utilize their powers for future levels. You also, there's like a collectathon. When you beat a level, it tells you, all the things and what you missed. And you can go back after you have some of these powers to go through and find what you missed. The shop for you to buy upgrades, permanent upgrades, like health upgrades, sword upgrades, armor, stuff like that. It is just a fun experience, a fun game. Has unlockables and new modes when you beat it. It's one of those games where I played it for review for Nintendo Fuse, and I beat the first 2 levels, and I called up East Asia Soft immediately. And I said, can I get some more codes so that I can, for the team to play, because I think this is one we want to do physical. And I told the team, I said, play this.
Yeah.
This is one we want to do physical.
Nice.
And
that's so cool.
I'm so glad. It's so good.
I love that. Yeah. And it does look great. And even the art style, it all sounds, I haven't played this one, but it just looks fantastic. It really, really does. So definitely worthy of a physical release. So I'm excited to see that one out there in the wild. Yeah. And I love that that's what you guys do as well. You have the opportunity to actually, like, developers come to you, but then also you see a game that warrants attention, and you can reach out to the developers and go, hey, what do you think? Do you want to make this a physical release? So it kind of works both ways, right?
It does work both ways. Yeah. So this is definitely one of those where we were able to make it happen, and working with Pippin and East Asia Soft has been a dream come true. They're very, very talented teams, and it's just awesome. Because this is one that I think some people might hear the title and something and be like, wait, what? I'm confused. But then when you see the gameplay, like, it makes sense. Like, it is quirky, it is fun, it is anime, but it's awesome, and it's definitely worth it. And that goes up for pre-order in 2 weeks.
Cool.
Bobby 67 we talked about goes up for pre-order in 4 weeks, and then what goes up for pre-order on the day this goes live on Monday is a game that I am still in disbelief that we're able to work on, and I'm so happy to be working on it, which is Super Dungeon Maker. And this is what I've wanted. We've talked the whole beginning of this whole podcast about Zelda. This is what we've all wanted Nintendo to do since they announced Super Mario Maker back on the Wii U, is to make a Zelda Maker, and they still refuse to do so. So the teams over at Fire Chick and Roca Play said, we're going to do it, and they did. And I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And it is amazing. So if you played Link's Awakening on the Switch, there was that mini dungeon maker in there, and it was just reusing pre-existing rooms from the Zelda dungeons. And it was all square rooms after square room, because of course it was the Game Boy came out on, so it was very limited. This is not that at all. This is every room you create. So you draw it. So you can make like a circle, you can make a diamond, you can make a star, you can make a square, a rectangle, you can make a U, a T, whatever. It doesn't matter. Every room you actually customize and build. You can put enemies wherever you want. You can put triggers like traps where you walk over a certain space and it spawns enemies, or even just enter the room. You can make it so treasure chests appear when you kill all the enemies, doors open when you kill all the enemies. Different items like the bombs and the hook shot and the shield and the rock's feather are all counted for. It is pretty much everything you would want from like A Link to the Past, but infinite. Dungeons also can be huge. They can be as small as you want or as big as you want. This game allows you to do up to 7 floors. So you think of like the towers in like A Link to the Past. It's like that. You could do up to 7 floors. You can make it as complicated as you want. You could do different. You could have like rooms that are ice, like the ice floor physics. You could do the ice sliding puzzles with like the blocks. You could do really almost whatever you want. Put bosses in regular rooms. Whatever. Just go crazy. Have fun with it. You can make a small or big dungeon, and the creativity is it's unbelievable. So because this game launched last year on Steam in early access, all the dungeons are cross-play. So when you get your cartridge of the game, not only can you play dungeons that Roca Play actually designed and are in the game, but you can go to the community within the game, browse through just like Mario Maker, thousands of levels created, thousands of dungeons. You could choose to play them, and if you like them, you could download them onto your system so you could play them at any time. You could rate them. And of course, you can design your own dungeons and then, of course, send those out into the interwebs for everyone to enjoy. And you get a code just like Mario Maker, so you can post on social media, hey, play my latest dungeon. This game is just, honestly, it's a masterpiece that they were able to do this. And it's even more amazing that Nintendo approved that a game like this on the Switch. Steam is one thing, but yeah, this is on the Switch. And the fact that they did it tells me there's no Zelda Maker coming out anytime soon. So this is your chance to do that. And we're so grateful to be able to bring this out physically. Again, a standard and a retro for both of these games. And this goes up for pre-order today in terms of when this goes live. It's Monday. This is like a dream come true as a lifelong Zelda fan. It's Zelda in everything but name, and you play the chicken.
I saw that. I was going to ask what's with the chicken. Is that just because they're called fire chicks? Like, is that just?
Yeah, I think that's why they did it. The team's fire chick. I think they made it chicken. It makes little bacaws as it rolls and stuff. It's adorable, and of course to get out in sort of a Triforce, it's a giant golden egg is the end goal for each dungeon. But they've teased more playable characters, and that's definitely a possibility. They're a very small team. You saw them literally in our direct. They're just a very small team. They've been working, like I said, it's been out for over a year in early access on Steam. It launches officially on May 3rd, so we actually have the pre-order going live before it's even available digitally.
Wow, cool!
And of course, it's great to be able to take all this year and a half or so worth of time and effort that they put into it and culmination for the true launch and be able to launch with it. So it's definitely one I would not recommend sleeping on if you're a Zelda fan, just because, again, it's outside of the name, it's Zelda.
And it looks amazing. Like the trailer just, I can't even describe it. It looks literally, just like you said, it looks like a Zelda game, like a top-down dungeon of Zelda. Like, it's phenomenal. It looks phenomenal, honestly. I'm just like so impressed with the trailer. I was like, oh my gosh, it looks so easy as well. It looks like you can just move elements around and create stuff kind of on the fly.
Even down to the animation, like I'm watching the roll, it looks like Minish Cap.
Yeah, very much like Minish Cap.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. Definitely one to watch out for. Absolutely. Go
on.
Oh, I was going to say, if you want the physical edition, yes. I mean, as Barry said, pre-orders on premium edition games open today. So jump on that, because I think this would be one to have in your collection for sure.
This is absolutely a dream to be able to bring this project to life. It's one I didn't think we would be able to do, be able to work on something so close to Zelda, and it's just great to do that.
Yeah, definitely a gap in the market at the moment is this Zelda Maker that, like you said, everyone's been wanting for a long time.
We've been wanting it for so long.
Yeah, how clever are these developers, honestly, to be able to do that, especially with a small team. I think that's really impressive.
And this kind of illustrates your point too, Barry, because this game, people can get it digitally on May 3rd, but that's 9 days before Tears of the Kingdom. I could easily see this getting lost in the shuffle, but then you'll have a physical edition, which people can have on their shelf and, revisit anytime and, not have to search for it or re-download it or, I think that's a good way to preserve it, for lack of a better word.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, so we're doing the pre-orders, and obviously we do like a 30-day pre-order window, or sometimes we extend it a little bit depending on demand. But we do that pre-order window is to gauge interest for our first initial order, because we're not a limited company. We want people to get it, so we don't want to do we're just going to do 5,000 and then like 6,000 people say we want it. Like, we got to wait, we got to do another reorder, and people wait. So we do this to get an initial initial order in, and then we're going to order for production. And so by the time the physical does come in, you'll probably just be finished with Tears of the Kingdom because it's going to be a big game. And then you'll be like, oh, I'm
True.
jonesing for some more Zelda. And then this comes out. And you're like, great. Because like you said, the digital, it's honestly one of the worst times to launch the digital because it's so close to Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
But
thankfully it does. Yeah. I mean, thankfully it comes out a little bit beforehand, but it's so close. You're going to get a week with this, and then it could get lost.
That's the beauty of this game because it's infinite. So if you wait and you get the physical after Tears of the Kingdom, you say, "Oh, I'm going to play this." You've got all these dungeons to play through, plus your own. Maybe there's some stuff in Tears of the Kingdom that we haven't seen yet. Like, oh, that sparks my creativity, and you try and translate that to 2D. Like, people try to recreate, Link to the Past dungeons in this, and the original Zelda dungeons in this. We did a dungeon on stream. It took us 40 minutes to complete. It was a really complicated dungeon with some clever puzzles. Like, wow, this was really good. And of course, like Mario Maker, you're going to get some dungeons that are just like, here's all the bosses, bum rush you. And it's like, oh, thanks, I feel the love. So there's going to be quality differences when any time there's user created content. But that's why there's a ranking system and all that stuff and a rating system.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh yeah, I can't wait to see that one. And the other thing I wanted to say about your direct is that I do love that you have those kind of developers on the show as well, and they get to talk about the games. You get to see them in person. Like, this is a real person. You can tell it's a passion project for them. You can tell that this is something that means a lot to them. So, I mean, you guys do a great job. So
thank you.
Yeah.
We always try and get them involved because so few people know the creative minds behind the games, and we want to give them their attention and make it a spectacle, because we could just release a trailer and just be like, oh, this is coming out, great, just another thing on YouTube. But instead we'd rather do it as an event, get people there, do it live premiere, do the streaming afterwards, and then of course it stays on YouTube, and we promote it in emails and stuff like, hey, go check it out, because it is a presentation. There were two other things we did in the presentation when we gave an update on Sunshine Anthology, or I should say we didn't. Paul from Fossil Games gave us an update. That was our first Kickstarter we ever did back in 2020. That's two 16-bit horror games going to be on the same physical. They're Camp Sunshine and Sunshine Manor. And we're just waiting for it to be fully ported, and they are waiting for it. So it should be ported here, I'm going to say within the next month. And then once it goes through quality checks and all that and is released, we will be talking about doing the physical. But we haven't taken money on it yet because we want to make sure that it comes to fruition. But everything looks good, and that is one you don't want to miss. And speaking of Kickstarters, we have a brand new Kickstarter that's live right now. Speaking of this, we're working with Chad Tronic with his latest Kickstarter, Poglings. Poglings is the question if Sega never abandoned the Chow Gardens from Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 and kept it going. So it's a modern day Chow Garden, and it's over 5 times the Kickstarter goal already at this point. It's over $200,000 raised, impressive. And it's still got like 24 days or whatever to go. So we're really honored to be doing the physical edition with him, and we're doing the plushie with him.
Cool.
And the one that's in the Kickstarter that you can get right now is going to be exclusive. It's going to have its own exclusive slipcover. Again, this is just to show the Kickstarter. It's your exclusive reward. And the plushie, the yellow Pogling plushie, is an exclusive color only available through the Kickstarter. So when the game launches, we will have our own version on our website with a different slipcover. We will have more plushies of the Poglings in different colors as well. But definitely check it out. It's an awesome game. Chad's an awesome guy to work with. And it's already, like I said, over 5 times the asking. So it's already successful. You don't have to worry about it being funded. It's funded.
That's amazing. Yeah, that looks great as well. And you could tell the excitement from Chad. It was awesome to see him on the direct. Yeah. And I love those collectibles. I love like plushies for some reason. I love the idea of having a game character like physically. I don't know why. That's why I'm asking about the Nintendo Live, whether they're going to sell.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have this. Yeah, that's my collections. But anyway, that's so great. Thank you so much for updating us on all of those terrific games that are coming. And I can't wait to see them come to fruition. And I hope all the pre-orders go really well. Jump on and check out Premium Edition games, listeners, please, because what Barry and the crew do is fantastic. And I just, especially like you said at the very beginning, it's heartbreaking that, when developers get looked over or these games get looked over, with closures of eShops and things like that. So I love that you guys are able to give them a second chance and really help promote this excellent work that's out there, because there's a lot of great stuff, and like we've been saying, we've been saying kind of a theme anyway, but just of today is that there is a lot that we don't get to see or play. This is just another awesome way to experience that. So definitely love your work. Did you have any other questions for Barry, Trev, about Premium Edition?
Yeah, I had one. I'm looking at your I was, and then I shut it. So I was looking on your About page, and you say, meet the team. I noticed most of your team don't have any bios. It says bio coming soon.
Yeah, so we've been so busy. The truth is, we've just been so busy for doing that. We have a great team, and that's one of the things we try and highlight in the direct too. Is that we, when we launched our early directs, we had little cartoon characters of ourselves, but we have more than just a few people in the team, and we really didn't want people to associate Premium Edition games with just one or two people. We have an entire team that makes it happen. So we try and incorporate everybody into the direct, or at least a good number into the direct, and give everybody at least a section to talk and showcase something, which is great. But we've been so busy. We're launching PlayStation. A couple months ago, we did our State of Premium. We just did Series 6. Now we're getting Series 5 in production. And we're all in a team. We have a lot else going on, just like personal. Our head of our street team, our head of shipping, they just had a baby. We're about to have a baby in a couple months. Our CEO is actually moving to Hawaii for the Army. So he's been packing up his house, and like all this stuff is going on at the same time as we're still moving full speed ahead. And it's like we need to get everybody. We said, like, how guys get that. Our designers are working on doing because all of our physicals, they come with manuals, right? So they're full color manuals. They have to be written. So our designers are working on that. All the art, if you notice, on all of our pieces is unique. We don't reuse art. So we have all brand new artists, and some of our designers are working on that as well. And one thing I didn't mention, if you didn't know about us, is all of our games come with challenge cards, which actually includes our Nintendo releases. They also come with challenge cards. And what we do is we ask the developers to come up with a crazy challenge that they want you to accomplish. And if you do that, we actually mail you a physical patch in the mail for free. You don't have to pay. Cool. It's not even like Nintendo. We're like, oh, you can have this for free, but pay $5 shipping. No, we will mail it to you for free. You don't pay shipping. It's just our way of saying congratulations, because we want you to play these games. We don't want them to just sit on the shelf. So that's our way of encouraging you to complete your actual physical by having the patch in there as well.
So cool.
So you have to earn it. So because of that is one of the reasons the About page, I'll bring it up again, has less there, just because everyone's been so busy. We're a small team. We all wear many hats, and we try and prioritize getting out these fantastic games in a timely manner with everything done properly and not cheaply. Make it so you really get what your money's worth.
Well, it's premium. This is not this.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you, because it sounds like your priorities are, in the right order. So
exactly. The way we put it is we put our money where our mouth is. Some people, maybe never even heard of us, and we have 10 physicals that have already come out, that are shipped, that are in people's hands. We have another 4 that are in production, about to come out. We have 2 PlayStation titles that are in production. We've got these 2 games that we're about to launch. We have an NES game that we've already put out twice. We did two pre-orders for 2 orders of Ore Body, and then of course another NES game coming. And we're still talking brand new ventures. We've got a lot of exciting stuff. We actually have games signed well into next year because we go slowly. So we do pick out, we feel is the creme de la creme for everybody. So it's like the Nintendo seal of approval that they used to have. All of our releases get the premium seal of approval.
Nice.
Because we support it. We love these games so much. We're honestly backing them the best way we can by giving them the physical release. So
yeah, that's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the passion is there. Yeah, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's always great to chat to you. So thank you. And we'd love to have you on again in the future, of course.
Absolutely.
Did you have any final words, Trev, before we wrap things up? How's our print going?
We've covered a lot. This has been a longer episode, but that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
We're definitely big on, supporting companies that do physical media, because obviously we're, trying to get our physical magazine in hand. So I'm hoping maybe in the future we can even have this is awesome having the podcast, but maybe we can even have an interview spread in print, because we've done that with other companies like Super Rare Games and, some of these others. So I think that'd be a fun thing to have in the future.
Yeah.
I'll be down for that. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, sounds great. All right. Well, let's wrap things up then. Thank you, Trev, for joining me again this week. And thank you, Barry, again, special guest. Please go and check out Premium Edition Games. We love talking to you, friend of the show. Everyone have a lovely evening, day, night, wherever you are. Thank you for listening. Please follow us on Twitter. We're at Pure Nintendo. If you'd like to support the show, we're also over on patreon.com/Pure Nintendo. The physical magazine that Trev just mentioned is on its way out currently for our current edition. We look forward to getting that into your hands. And until next week, game on, everybody. Bye.